The issue seems to be with this game, for the people who don't like it, that it's just kind of a really good version of what we've played before. And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of critics that I do think articulate their point well. The one that really fascinates me, though, is the Kotaku one, not because of the way it's written, but because of the response. So the Kotaku one is written by Riley McLeod. Riley McLeod is a trans man. If you don't know what that is, it is a human that was born biologically female and transitioned to a male. Whether that transition is all physical, all chemical, all just outward visual is irrelevant. This is a trans male we're talking about. And the reason I bring it up is because he writes it from that perspective. Okay. And he talks about how the game, is actually more progressive than he thought, but there's problems with the way they deal with race, and there's problems with the way they deal with sexuality, and whatever. And then they obviously talk about the game. This is a very meaty fucking review. This is not like somebody just is like, I'm just going to write about my perspective of things and from a trans male experience and not also do my job as someone who's just writing about the nuts and bolts. No, they did a good job. Whether you like their review or not, this is a thorough, professional, well-played, well-researched review. Like it, hate it, you can't deny that. It's very substantial, very substantive, right? So what I found interesting was, and somebody in the chat just said kind of similar, and I don't mean to call you out, but I kind of do. 2005 Cool Year says, so criticism is just based on a far left perspective. Yeah, not worth reading. No, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. It's worth reading because it covers more than that, but it does cover that. It does cover that though. And this is, and if you go to NeoGAF, which I know I bring up NeoGAF lately because NeoGAF has gotten better. It used to be just like a hive of scum and villainy. And then Evil Lore comes in and says, look, this is ridiculous. We're not One American News of video games. We can be a little right-leaning, but we're not that. And it's gotten to be much better. But there are still threads frequently enough that I'm like, shit, NeoGAF, what are you guys thinking? So this is the one that blew me away a little bit. So this guy's title is, anyone else feel they don't belong in this current world? Cyberpunk negative reviews. And then they do go on in this to cite the fact, this Kotaku review talking about, oh, this person's writing this from their woke bullshit voice and all this stuff. And it's supposed to be a video game. And I'm just worried at this point, this guy says, Elite Dragon, if more and more devs start pandering to this bullshit in the near future and lose focus on the quality of the game, it's just telling to me that these guys and ladies have no problem stepping up and saying games are art. Games can express vision. They're not just toys for kids. Stop treating games like that. And the minute a game comes out that a reviewer steps up and says, I'm not going to treat the game like a toy. I'm going to do what you guys ask because I agree with you. I'm going to write about the game like a film critic writes about a film. I'm going to write about this game like somebody would write about Blade Runner. What does Blade Runner have to do? When Blade Runner came out in 1981, was it a commercial flop? But even years later, decades later, it lives on in popular culture as a cult classic and something meaningful and relevant. Why is that? That's what a good critic does. That's someone who takes the medium seriously does. But the minute these guys hear, oh, I don't agree with it, instead of going, you know what, I don't agree with that person. That person has different lived experience. That's not what I value in a video game. But that's pretty cool that they're writing about games from a perspective of more than just what goes clicky, clicky, boom, boom, which is what we, these gamers and myself as well, have been saying for over a decade, that games are more than just toys. They are an expression of the creators. They are an expression subconsciously, subliminally, of the world in which we live. The minute someone actually does that, but they do it from a perspective they don't like, suddenly it's like, why don't you just fucking talk about the game? It's like, you know what, man? You can't have both. I mean, you can, but you're a fucking hypocrite. You can't have both and be honest and be a respected voice of video game fandom. You just look like a fucking moron.